Hello everybody, MD Polo at Range USA in Carmel, Indiana. Today I'm shooting the Shadow Systems, and this is the XR920 and the Glock 45. Both in 9mm, basically identical guns. MagTech 124 grain. I'm about 8-9 yards out. Bottom left target, starting with the Shadow Systems. Nothing scientific, just to see how they shoot in my hand. Now the last couple of weeks my hands, for some reason, have been very shaky. Really hot this. You can feel the shakes. That one went low. Now we're clear. Glock 45. Bottom right target. Tiny sights. A little high. Left. We're empty. I guess some days you shoot better than others, but I always show you exactly what happened, unedited. Let me turn you around. Good or bad, that's what you get. Wow. Boy, is this bad. Anyway, Shadow Systems. Some over here. One up there. And Glock. And one up there. Wow. That's just really bad. Let me tell you that what I know is that the Shadow Systems was a little snappier, and I actually was shooting the Glock 45 a little bit more. But not a good day of shooting, but let's go to the table. Welcome back to the tabletop. As I mentioned to you out on the range, which got pretty noisy, it was definitely not my best range trip out there. For some reason my hands have been shaking lately, and I'm going to get it checked out, but it is what it is. So comparing the Glock 45 on your left with the Shadow Systems XR920 Elite on your right, this you can get it in the Elite model, which has all the bells and whistles and all dolled up. Or you can get it in the more plain combat model, which doesn't have some of the serrations on top or some of the slide cuts. I mean, there's several different ways you can get the Shadow Systems. The Glock 45, you can get it either black or on a gray like this, like I found. The thing about this gray is that it is factory. It's not a Cerakoted model. It's not a Lipsy special or some other distributor special. This one came gray from Glock, and I really appreciated that. It looked good, so I picked it up. It was interesting shooting both of them side by side, even though, as I mentioned, was not my best day out there, because as similar as they are, they feel quite different. Part of it could be because of the different grip angles, as you can see here. The triggers do feel quite a bit different. Capacity is the same. You can see here on the right with the Shadow System, it comes with a removable mag well if you choose to remove it, but it helps quite a bit. Capacity is the same at 17 rounds. They both have an accessory rail if you'd like to hang anything off the front up there. They both have front serrations. There's a lot of similarities here, but they feel very different out in the range. Now this video might be a little bit longer than I normally do, because I am going to geek out a little bit on the specs to show you the comparisons, and then show you what I tell you what I like, what I don't like, and which one would I pick if I had to keep one of them. Now as you see them, most of them are, let's call them mostly stock, because the Shadow Systems is 100% the way it sells from Shadow Systems. The Glock on your left, Glock 45, I installed the Heine night sights because I do that to all my guns. I I love those sights, I really do. And I'm not a fan of the not the U-notch, but the Glock sights. The other thing that you might have noticed on the video, out of the range, is this. If you saw the front of the gun, let the focus catch up a little bit here. You saw the gold shining through the front of the pistol. And that is because I forgot that I've been testing this tungsten guide rod, and it's quite a bit heavier. This guide rod is twice as heavy as the factory Glock guide rod. So you saw this, and that could be one of the reasons why the Glock was a softer shooting experience. And yes, that's what it was. On that particular day, I was more accurate with the shadow systems. But the Glock 45 was a much smoother shooting experience. I enjoyed shooting the Glock 45 more than I did the shadow systems. And it could very well be for that guide rod. Now, take that for what it's worth. Now, diving a little into the guns, Glock, of course, was established in the early 1980s, and shadow systems has been around since 2016. The two samples in front of you are both 9mm. Barrels are on the left with a Glock 45. It's a 4.02-inch polygonal rifling barrel, and Glock calls it the marksman barrel. On the right-hand side, you've got a 4-inch match-grade bronze-coated TICN barrel from Shadow Systems. It is fluted, and it has got conventional rifling. The firearms have been safety checked, and we'll talk about the mags in a second. But you can see here from Shadow Systems is just a beautiful work on the rifling. Now they say that not only sheds some weight, maybe helps it cool down a bit, but also helps keep it cleaner. So they did a great job with the barrel from Shadow Systems. And over here from Glock, I've got a little placeholder because otherwise, due to the ambi mag release, it starts to roll on me. But the Glock barrel is just a regular marksman barrel, no fluting or anything. You can see the guide right there. So a little different. Capacity is the same. Both of them come with 17 round mags. Glock on the left. Another nice touch with a Glock, the gray one, is that it's got the gray mags to match the gun, but 17 rounds. The Shadow and it's shipped with 3 of these 17 round mags. The Shadow Systems on the right ships with 2 PMags. They're not Glock mags, although of course they're Glock compatible. Here's the Glock mag. Fits just fine. Locks back, no problem. And the PMag, of course, works as well. Locks back, no problems with the Glock 45. So capacity is the same. Magazines are interchangeable. There's some theories that say that Shadow Systems would have liked to have had Glock mags with their guns, but that Glock wouldn't sell it to them, or wouldn't sell them the quantities that they needed. I don't know the story, but that's just what I've heard. So you got equal capacity on both. 3 mags with a Glock, 2 PMags with the Shadow Systems. The weight, it's an interesting thing, because with their mags and unloaded, and with a regular guide rod, the Glock comes in at 24.9 ounces, and the Shadow Systems comes in at 22.4 ounces. So a little bit lighter with the Shadow Systems. Could be because it's got more cuts in it, but also they just did a better job in shedding weight for the Shadow Systems. The slide on the Glock, you can see this is a Gen 5 in essence, Glock 45. It's got front serrations, back serrations. But this particular one, being from the factory, it doesn't come with any other cuts on the slide. Staying with the top here, you're going to see that you've got the Heine sights. It's got the straight 8 sights. Of course, they're metal sights, serrated in the back. And it's just got the 2 dots right there. And it's, to me, it's such an easy sight picture to acquire. Absolutely love the sights. That's the Glock 45. And for the shadow systems, you've got a much fancier design as far as the serrations are concerned. As you can see here. The slide on this is a black nitride coated slide. As you can see here. So if this was the Elite model, you would have a window cut, a couple window cuts on the sides, and you would have also serrations on the top. But this being the Combat, it doesn't have those extras. Okay, so the disassembly of them is exactly the same. You always check that it's unloaded. And you want to pull back a little bit, pull down the tabs, and yes, YouTube, pull the trigger. Yes, YouTube, this is in the owner's manual, and this is exactly for maintenance and safety. And you're going to see that both of them are very similar. Pull back, pull the trigger. The little tabs to pull down to disassemble, they're a little bit bigger on the shadow systems, and it's a little bit easier to reach than in the Glock. But looking at it here, you're going to see they're basically identical between the two systems. The rails are pretty much the same. Very similar. Now looking at the slides with the barrels, there you see the differences between the fluted barrel, but everything else is very similar. You see your safety plungers there are a little bit different, and this is because the Glock on your left is based on a Gen 5, and the shadow systems on your right, I believe, is on a Gen 3 or Gen 4. Should have done my homework a little bit better, but very similar. And here you can see the guide rods, two different approaches. Gen 5 Glock 45 on the left, and flat springs, a flat spring coming with the shadow systems. Single spring, double spring, and if you want to compare it to the heavy tungsten is on your left, and the factory is on your right. Like I said, that one is about twice as heavy. Love the way that feels. To put them back together, just reverse the process. In goes the guide rod. Goes right there. It's kind of tricky to do it around a camera. Make sure it's in all the way. There we go. Oh, no, I completely messed that. Okay, now we're good. Like I said, it's very tricky to do this around a camera. With the shadow systems. In it goes. Line up the rails. And we're good. So similar in some ways, but very different at the same time. From the factory, the Glock comes with plastic sights. Everybody knows what those look like, but like I mentioned, I changed them to the Heine sights. For the shadow systems, they have a fantastic sight picture from the factory. It's got kind of like those pyramid sights in the back, serrated, blacked out. And in the front, you've got that bright fluorescent green with a tritium insert. So it's a sight picture that is very easy on the eye, very easy to acquire. The sights are by Night Vision. But I really liked the way everything just funnels your eye from the back side all the way to the front side. So very well done. The Glock 45, although you can get it optics ready, this particular model is not optics ready. In the MOS from Glock, which is the optics ready version, they did have one there, but it was all black. And I really wanted to do this on the with a gray, and I'm not sure that I wanted to put an optic on this Glock, on this particular Glock, so I opted to go with a gray one. Over here with the shadow systems, it comes optics ready, as you can see here, and that's another difference. Wow, the camera's really not liking the lighting. Another of the differences that we have here is with the shadow systems, their optic system, the optic mounting system is really, really different and really awesome, because instead of using plates, the optics that it supports, it uses a direct mount to the slide. You don't have to use a plate. And in order to do that, Shadow Systems re-engineered how everything, all the internals that work inside of the slide here, in contrast to the Glock, they had to make them shorter. They have to move them up. I'm not an engineer, but everything had to be changed in order to accept the direct mount with a shim type system. You put shims in the back, and that's what supports the optic. But also at the same time, you had the screws mount a lot deeper into the slide, and in order, to secure the optic, and so everything had to be moved forward. But because of that, not only have a direct mount on the slide, but you have co-witness capability. So very nice on the right with Shadow Systems, how they did the optics mount versus the MOS plate. I mean, night and day. That's not even, if you want an MOS, then definitely go, mount an optic, definitely go with the Shadow Systems. But there you go, the two sights. You can see the two back plates. You can see that they're different generation Glocks with how the slide interacts with the frame. Okay, the grips, moving down to the grips of the handguns. With the Glock, and with the Shadow Systems, you got interchangeable back straps. There's no interchangeable panels or anything in the front, but you can see the differences between the Shadow Systems on your right and the Glock on your left. You got the kind of like the RTF texture here. It's not, maybe a little bit less aggressive than the original RTF texture, but you've got it all around, but it doesn't go as high as I normally like it on a gun. Okay, the front of the trigger guard has got some lines going across it. I wouldn't call it stippling or serrations, but it's got some lines for texture going around it. At least that's better than nothing. The Shadow Systems goes a step further, and in the same type of texture that you've got on the grip, you have it as well. Let's see if it shows you over here better. You have it as well in the front of the trigger guard for those of you that like to put your finger up there for your grip. As far as the trigger guards are concerned, you see that the Shadow Systems gives you a little bit more room. Not a lot, but it gives you a little bit more room. And also you can see the differences in the angles of the trigger guards, where you have more of a little, and the way it swoops in like this over here, and more of a point, versus here is more of up and down and more rounded. So that's just neither here nor there. That's just the way they do it. The Glock grip down here doesn't have an undercut or a large undercut. Some people complain of the Glock knuckle over here. And the Shadow Systems, you can see here how not only they undercut the trigger guard here, but also a very high undercut over here under the trigger guard. So it allows you to, together with the beaver tail, it allows you to get really high up on the gun. So as far as just grips, grip angle, and how it feels, 100% Shadow Systems for me on that one. And then moving down, the Glock 45 is going to give you a little bit of a magwell. Not much to talk about there, but they did, I think, a good job, adequate job, in how it's beveled in on the sides. So they did a good job there, but the Shadow Systems, again, takes the cake on that, because you actually have a magwell from the factory. Easy to remove, just pop the pin out, off it goes, put the pin back. So it's very nice. It's polymer. If so, that doesn't matter to you, then it's fine. Another difference, as you can see here, it's going to be the mag release. Shadow Systems gives you larger serrations, texture on it. The Glock in the bottom is going to be more of a fine lines to it. They both work well. They do everything just fine. Neither of them are ambi, but both of them are reversible. And as you can see here, on the Glock on your left, let the focus catch up a little bit. There you go. The Glock on the left, Shadow Systems on your right, you see there that the slide catch is fully ambi on the Glock, but it's not on the Shadow Systems. Shadow Systems only has it on one side, Glock has it on both. So if that's an advantage for you for the Glock, then that's it. There it is. Other differences, well, MSRP is one of them. The Glock 45 on the left comes in at $640, the way you see it, plus whatever is the cost of the sights you want to put on them. So if you put $100 sights, you're coming in at $740, $700 and change. On the right, the Shadow Systems comes in at $990, the way it sits right now. If you want it with a threaded barrel, it's going to come in at $1,010. But comparing these two, without the sights for the Glock, you're talking about $350 more than for the Shadow Systems. But you get the fluted barrel, you get from the box really nice night sights, you get more texture, you get the mag well. Now you need to decide if that is something you value. On your left, this particular Glock is made in Austria. There are a lot of Glocks been made here in the US and Georgia, but the Shadow Systems and all their Shadow Systems models plus all their components, everything is made out here in the US in Plano, Texas. Austrian made, US, Texas made. Now let's take a quick look at the triggers. Okay, so on the Glock 45, typical Glock trigger, you've got your little safety dingus here, and you're gonna pull, and you got a very defined wall on this Glock 45. Breakthrough, and this particular one is consistently on my trigger gauge pulling between 5 3/4 and 6 pounds. So not the best Glock trigger that I found, but it does the job. And the reset is typical Glock reset. There, you're at the wall, and it pushes. So very usable trigger, very decent combat trigger. And the Shadow Systems, you got the same safety diggings here in the middle. Much nicer trigger shoe. It actually, the safety dingus really does disappear fully into the trigger shoe, whereas the Glock does not. Also, the angle is different between the two. And the trigger pull, I don't know if you can hear it. There you go. And then you're at the wall. And this is pulling scarily identical to the Glock 45. Both of them are at about 5 3/4 pounds, a little bit more. The reset, there and back. I wouldn't call either one of them an awesome trigger, but they're both very good duty trigger, self-defense triggers. If I had to choose one, wow. You know what? It's going to depend what day of the week you grab the gun. You can give it to either one of them. Maybe the Shadow Systems by a hair, but I wouldn't put money on that one. What they come with. Shadow Systems arrives in a nice case like this. It says Shadow Systems on it. And inside of it, it's hard to do this with a gun's end, but inside you get your second PMag, and you get a little baggie with the extra back straps, plus your tool to remove the pins and things like that. Your Glock is going to come in what they all come with, your regular clamshell Glock case, and inside of it you're going to get, actually it comes with 3 mags. I've got one loaded on my desk, but it's going to come with 3 mags, your speed loader, and a little baggie with 2 extra back straps. And that's the difference of what they come with. Both of them will do the job for sure. Both of them are fine handguns. Shadow Systems is $350, let's call it, you know, with sights that you need to purchase from the Glock, let's call it $200 more. $220 more, something like that. So do you think that everything the Shadow Systems brings to the table, it's worth that difference? This, I don't think you need to do anything to it. This, you can leave it just the way it is. It's just a fine defensive handgun. But if you want to doll it up a little bit, you're going to need to spend some money to get it to where this is. Both very nice. I'm very happy with the Glock 45. As I mentioned earlier, the Shadow Systems does not belong to me. This belongs to my friend Craig. Thank you very much, Craig, for letting me borrow your gun. He also let me borrow another one for another video. That was very, very generous and very kind of him. So thank you, Craig. So please tell me, what do you think about these two firearms in front of you? Do you like the Glock 45, or would you spend the extra money on the Shadow Systems XR920 Elite? Both of them awesome. Both of them shoot very well. Both of them have been 100% reliable. So I would like to know what you think about this and what your experiences have been with one or both, especially if you own both of them. Also, please remember that I upload videos every Friday morning and when I can on Wednesday mornings as well. I am now somewhat active on Instagram because really I'm getting really tired of their censorship and the way they're treating us. So I'm posting less and less there, but still you can find some things over there. And so yeah, I look forward to your comments. That's my favorite part of the channel. We're approaching 15,000 subscribers. So thank you for that. Thank you for your support. I look forward to your comments. And until the next time, God bless.